And you are live.
Okay, folks, we are House Education, Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Hearing a proposed floor amendment that we will then need to do a straw poll on. This is all going to be Groundhog Day because we did it all before. Representative Boughton is here to, is it Boughton or Booten? Booten. Representative Booten, please, the floor is yours. Go right ahead. Welcome to House Education again.
Well, thank you. So I'm gonna introduce the amendment for the interim educator program. I appreciate you guys looking into it earlier, and I was hoping for a different response, but that's okay. I do want to clarify, it's not a friendly amendment, but it's not an unfriendly amendment. I don't want you to think that it's not.
We determine whether it's friendly.
Well, I hope you determine that it's not meant in any type of malice. The reason why I'm doing this is specifically for my district, full transparency. We currently have our superintendent under the interim educator program. She has been instrumental in passing our budget, which we failed 3 times last year. The only district in the state of Vermont that didn't have a budget passed until September. And she has also been instrumental in passing this year's budget with passing wonderful numbers. And she has also been a stabilizing person in our district. We have not made a decision to maintain her or whether or not she has applied for the position. We are currently in a superintendent search. However, as a person that likes options, I would like to have the option available. And I think it's an option that's really good to have for all districts. The first year, only 7 people utilized this program. The second year, 5 people utilized the program. And this last year, only 3. It's unfortunate that it wasn't utilized more considering the crisis that we have for our education field. Everybody talks about not having educators. This is a way to entice people out of retirement. And I think that is something that we should not lose as a tool in our toolbox as school board members. And I don't know who here is a school board member, but yeah, it's kind of nice to have any tools we can get. It's nice to have, which is the reason why I submit the amendment on the floor, or will submit the amendment on the floor. So I'll take questions if anybody has any. If
I guess I'll ask, the motivation here is in part because as your superintendent indicated that they would not want to continue unless they could draw both a full salary and a full pension.
So no, my response is solely, I want the option available if needed.
Understood.
I don't know, I couldn't tell you any of that information. Even if I knew it, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So I think it's a good program. We utilized it, other districts utilized it. I unfortunately don't have all the districts in front of me. I think Wyndham was one of them. There was quite a few districts.
This is going.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
So I just want to share my concern, right? So, right, we're enticing them to come out of retirement, but so with that, should they then benefit from the retirement program? Now, that's what we currently do. But to what end, right? Where does that enticement to come out of retirement end? And then does that just send them back into retirement? So then we start losing the cohesion, that consistency, right, that we're looking for. So I think I like it, but I also dislike it because it does create inconsistency. It's right. They're coming out only to do this to then if it goes away, right, you're going to lose.
Question for the witness.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was more of a, how would you respond to that concern?
So the concern about people coming in and out of the field, And unfortunately, I think we're seeing that more now than what we used to see that. I mean, I remember going to school, all my teachers had been there for like 20, 30 years. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. I think we're seeing teachers pop out more often than, it's unfortunate. So I don't think there's any way to prevent that. Regarding the, would this keep somebody longer? I mean, we could extend the program more than 2 years. I'm not opposed to that if you wanted to go down that route to entice people to stay longer. But I don't think you guys would like that too much.
Well, my fear is we're enticing them to come out of retirement and then they leave. And I guess like, I don't know, I'm not gonna go any further because I don't know that I have the right question for that, so I apologize.
Sure. Well, I understand the concern that they will be enticed out of a retirement and then back in. But, in 2 years, we might have a completely different system. And we might have, we're not going to, but we might have a whole bunch of teachers, that need, position or need a job. I don't think that's gonna be the case, but yeah.
So anyone can come out of retirement and do the work. So what you're suggesting is that it would be harder to entice someone to do that if you weren't also paying them retirement? Because it seems like if you're paying a decent salary to your superintendent in the first place, that just the salary alone should be enough to appease them to work the year that they're committing to or whatever.
So, I mean, that argument could be made for the bill that was passed in 2022. And I get it. I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, we could pay more. That's certainly something that we could do. And it would increase the education, the strain on the education fund.
I'm just reading through again, just wondering about some consistency because it does extend the sunset for 2 years. Okay. But I'm looking on like around line 12-ish. To serve as an interim school educator for a period not to exceed 1 school year. So it looks to me like the program extends for 2 years, but a person could not be in that position for 2 years.
So I would
Am I
say
missing
that,
something?
you are not missing something, and
Okay.
there might be a lengthening, but if you, go to page 2, line 20.
Page 2, line 20. Okay,
It repeals the language that would limit it to 1 year.
that, and I thought we had that in there before, so that's where I
Yes.
thought it was missing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, but I would just let the council need to comment on that inconsistency.
all right, thank you.
But this would essentially, do exactly what's in the repeal language. It would allow somebody to hold a position more than a year.
For those 2 years.
Yeah. More than a year. It's a.
Right, but we've only extended
Yeah,
it for 2 years.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
So I know that there's some concern about the usage of the program. Of changing people's feelings about retirement and that matter. These were the same concerns that people had in 2022. The VPA, I think it was the VPA, also was concerned about that. Those concerns did not manifest. They didn't. And over the 3-year period that we've had them, they've actually gone down in numbers. So, if that quells anything, and the other thing is that there is a gatekeeper. The treasurer's office is the gatekeeper to this program. So if it does start to get out of hand, they can say no. And that's the way that it's written in the bill, that they have the ability to say, we're not going to renew this. And that's one of those safeguards that are in place.
Is that okay?
I see another one. So I'm looking on page 1, line 15. the beneficiary has received retirement allowance for 6 months or more. So in theory, a individual could not retire June 30th and immediately start work as a retiree and a full-time employee that coming fall. They actually have to collect their retirement for a period of time. before they come back. If I understand that correctly.
That's my reading of it.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the positives of that is that, you know, when we look at teacher contracts, right, they have a set time frame.
Mhm.
So that also adds some stability or safeguards into that, I guess.
So just for clarity's sake for everybody, so this provision is set to sunset, this entire bill. It does not preclude anybody from coming out of retirement. But it would preclude them from being, so right now, if you earn a certain amount of money, it starts affecting your pension. And that sort of system would return.
Mhm.
Any other questions? I think we'll have a little ledge council time to walk through it quickly, even though we've been through it once before. Yeah. Anything further?
Regarding the contracts part, a teacher that retires at the end of the year, as you said, 6 months later, brings it into October-ish, January. Okay, so that would require a teacher probably either to fill an immediate position that's needed, or, I mean, they would have to, you know, apply for a job for the following year. So it would be a year out of service. As
Unless it was a need for something.
Right.
Correct. Just something for concern as folks are about concerns. Do you need me to stick around?
It's entirely up to you. We don't need you,
Okay,
but you are welcome to.
okay. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm more than willing to do whatever I can to get this passed. And I will leave just because I have a straw vote on an amendment that we have on our committee.
Great.
So I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
So Camille, we're gonna come back after the floor to actually.
Oh, okay.
Which will take literally 5 minutes. Because Josh needs to leave, I'd like to be part of the vote. Okay,
I'm being a chair when I get out.
Okay, do it.
so everyone, we've heard all this before. We have, I think it'd be good just to have Beth walk us through it again. We also have Tim from the treasurer's office. If anybody would like to have him repeat what we heard a few days ago, if that would be helpful, happy to have him come to the stand. Yes,
I'm fine, yeah, I'm fine with that. That was very compelling for me.
yeah, all of that, if people want to hear it again. All right, well, let's walk through it real fast with legislative council then.
As St. James Legislative Council, I will just note for the record, I am not the original
Oh, that's
drafter
right,
of
yes.
this. And
Sorry.
I do have a personal conflict. This is not in my portfolio, but I'm familiar enough with it, and I think you all are familiar enough with it that I think we can do a walkthrough. But if you have substantive questions about teachers' retirement, I am not your gal. But I can connect with my colleague Cameron and get you those answers if Tim can't also. Okay. So the amendment is to H 480. It's adding a new section at the very end, which is just the language from H 311 as introduced, with a couple changes just to how long the extension is being pushed out. So H 311 as introduced was pushing the sunset out 5 years. This amendment is proposing to push the sunset out for 2 years, and then the associated renewal cycles adjusted with that. So in 2022, action resolves number 173. This provision was added, and so you're making this amendment is proposing to make an amendment to this section of law that would allow a teacher who is retired and currently a beneficiary drawing on the state retirement system to come back into service and collect a salary while also collecting pension if they have been, if they have received a retirement allowance for 6 months or more immediately preceding the resumption of service, The employer of the beneficiary is subject to the assessment set forth on behalf of the beneficiary and remits payment to the benefits fund. And the employer of the beneficiary remits payment to the Vermont Teachers Retirement Fund in an amount equal to the contribution rate established for members of the beneficiaries group for any period that service is resumed. The person who would be resuming service, the teacher or administrator, would not make contributions to the system during the person's period of service. This is all current law. And each superintendent who hires an interim school educator pursuant to subsection A of this section would certify to the retirement board that the district exhausted all reasonable options to employ a qualified active educator prior to employing a beneficiary as an interim school educator. So current law allows for the treasurer to grant not more than 2 renewal cycles in fiscal years 24 and 25. This amendment is proposing to push that out to fiscal year 2027. So in fiscal years 2024 through 2027, the treasurer would be authorized to grant not more than 4 renewals for a one fiscal year period authority described in subsection A. And then the treasurer would be required to make the determination to renew the authority not earlier than, current law is June. This is proposing to change it to May 1st. And current law is June, but not later than June 30th. And this is proposing to change that to May 31st in each fiscal year, and shall notify the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs and the Senate Committee on Government Operations. Those are usually the committees of jurisdiction for a matter related to retirement of that determination. And then current law states that in the event this treasurer makes a determination to renew the authority that we just walked through, a beneficiary may only resume service during each 1-year renewal period if service is performed in a different interim school educator position. So that's you can't remain in that position for more than 1 year. It would have to be a brand new position if the interim educator was taking advantage of this benefit. This amendment proposes to repeal that language. So there would be no prohibition on staying in the same role for more than 1 renewal period. And then this whole section, this whole piece of law would be repealed. Current law has it being repealed, sunsetting on June 30th, 2026. This amendment is pushing that out to 2 years to June 30th, 2028.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are people feeling comfortable that they'll be ready to vote when we come after the floor
Thanks.
from this? In the meantime, if you've got any questions for to the treasurer's office or let's say council, whatever, take advantage of the time we have. Yes, Representative
I'm
Kim.
not sure how it works, but I have to head to Burlington for a doctor's appointment, so I may not be here after the floor. I was kind of hoping we would vote ahead of time or that I could cast my vote ahead of time.
No, Maureen.
think you can vote.
We can vote one morning.
Yeah. No,
No,
she's
from
remotely.
Yes, you'd be claiming that as one of your.
It would be one of your
remote vote
days.
And for a straw.
I know.
It's a
And
straw
could it come in
poll.
as a text?
I don't think straw poll counts.
For your days.
Let me talk with the clerk.
Great.
This has come up before, for straw poll versus a real vote. I'm not sure a straw poll falls into the same rules. It's much more sort of loose. We're really providing an opinion.
And then can I make a comment that I would have made later this afternoon
Yep.
if you had discussion? I'm not in favor of any legislation, amendment or otherwise, that would change the direction that Vistas is headed. The task force, Vistas.
Yeah.
the-
Oh, Vistas, oh, got
yeah.
it, sorry, yeah.
The task force did their work, the finance folks are doing their work, everything's working in the right direction and we shouldn't screw it up.
Oh, there.
It would be easier to vote now, and then I can grab these two. But I probably need a little more clarification.
Yeah.
from this.
Just check it.
Yeah.
You want to vote now?
I think we will, well, let me just do this. Just get a sense of where people are at, as opposed to just kind of shuffle. We would say, we're gonna find this amendment unfriendly. who would be supporting that?
Favorable,
Unfavorable.
unfavorable.
I think the technical is unfavorable is fine.
But this is not the actual.
This is not the
No,
actual
I'm just
vote.
trying to get a sense of
Is
things.
this a temperature
You mean
check?
to-
Temperature check.
It's a temperature check.
So those who would, find this amendment unfavorable.
I don't know.
And I guess for me, I'll just say, I keep coming back to, nobody is being prevented from
Right.
being on retirement pension and going to work as a superintendent for $150,000 a year.
That's correct.
And the program really hasn't been utilized that much. So I'm not sure it's time to sunset it away. All right, we'll come back and, I'll get you some clarification during lunch. And we'll close there. Floor, gonna be long, so
Yeah, it
I'm
could be
come
long.
back here at 4 or so. And everybody